Hey everyone, welcome back. Pull up a chair, maybe pour yourself a glass of water or a warm cup of tea. Let's just sit and talk for a while. A couple of days ago, I saw a patient in my office. She changed one tiny, almost invisible eating habit, and that one small change helped her get 5 different chronic health problems under control, problems that had been bothering her for years. Her whole family had been worried sick about her. Now, they can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Today, I want to use her story as a gentle reminder for all of us. So many of the foods we take for granted, the cheap, simple, almost boring foods at the grocery store, can actually be some of our biggest health allies. They're like quiet guardians. You just haven't discovered how good they really are, or you haven't learned the right way to eat them. Before we get into today's health topic, if you care about your own body and the people sitting around your dinner table, please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the little bell notification. That way you won't miss future videos where I share practical, science-based health information on this channel. I share the kind of health truths that mainstream media doesn't always talk about, not because they're secrets, but because they're not flashy or expensive. And if you enjoy what I'm sharing today, just type the number 1 in the comments below. That simple little one is a warm and meaningful way to say you're with me. I'd also love for you to share your own thoughts and experiences in the comment section. I read them. All right, let me tell you about Mrs. Chen. Mrs. Chen is 57 years old. She retired just a few years ago. By all rights, this should be the golden time of her life. No more work stress. Time to enjoy her family, play with the grandkids, travel a little, sleep in. But for the past 2 years, Mrs. Chen has been anything but happy. Why? Because her body started acting up. Like all her systems decided to fail at the same time, 5 different health problems all wrapped around her like tight ropes. Let me walk you through them. The first problem, and the one that scared her the most, was her blood sugar. Every time she went to the lab for a blood draw, her numbers were right there on the borderline. Her doctor warned her, Mrs. Chen, if you don't make some changes, you're going to get a formal diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. The second problem was her blood pressure. She was already on medication, but even with the pills, if she got angry or had a bad night of sleep, her blood pressure would shoot up like a roller coaster. She'd feel dizzy and foggy-headed. The third problem was something she didn't like to talk about: severe constipation. Sometimes 3 or 4 days would go by without a bowel movement. Then she'd sit on the toilet, strain until her face turned red, break out in a sweat, and feel like her legs were shaking when she finally stood up. The fourth problem was her eyes. Every single day, her eyes felt dry and itchy. Her vision was blurry, like she was looking through a dirty window. Eye drops didn't really help. The fifth problem was her weight. Over the past 2 years, without really changing her eating habits, her weight had been creeping up. That belly, what we call the spare tire, just kept getting bigger. None of her nice clothes fit anymore. Now, Mrs. Chen is what I call a very compliant patient. She listens to her doctors. She really tries to fight these problems. She tried all sorts of different methods. Her doctor told her to control her diet, so she got super strict with herself each meal. She only allowed herself half a small bowl of white rice. She barely ate any meat. Anything greasy or fatty completely off the table. But here's what happened. That almost monk-like, very restrictive diet did not make her body better. Her blood sugar and blood pressure were still up and down. The constipation didn't go away. And because she was constantly hungry and deprived, she felt tired, sluggish, and developed something I see a lot of in my practice: deep diet anxiety. She started dreading mealtimes. She didn't know what she was allowed to eat anymore. That is a miserable way to live. So the turning point came a little over a month ago. Mrs. Chen went to a health lecture at a local community center. It was one of those free events sponsored by the county. After the lecture, she went up to the registered dietitian who was speaking, and she poured out her whole story, all 5 problems: the strict diet, the misery, the fear of food. And that experienced dietitian didn't give her any expensive supplements. She didn't tell Mrs. Chen to starve herself even more. Instead, she gave her a piece of advice that sounded almost too simple to believe. The dietitian said, Mrs. Chen, here's what I want you to try. Go home, and instead of eating so much white rice and white pasta, replace some of it with sweet potatoes, the regular sweet potatoes you see at any grocery store. Just 1 piece a day, about the size of your fist. You don't need a lot, just stick with it for a while and see what happens. Now, I have to be honest, Mrs. Chen's heart was full of doubt. She thought to herself, sweet potatoes taste sweet, my blood sugar is already high. If I eat something sweet, won't my blood sugar go through the roof? That makes perfect sense, right? But she trusted the professional, so she decided to give it a try. And then a quiet, steady miracle started to unfold after sticking with this for a little over 2 months. Mrs. Chen came back to my office for a follow up appointment. She brought her latest lab results and her daily blood sugar logbook, and I could see it immediately. Her whole energy had changed. Her eyes had life in them again. She looked like a different person. She told me very excitedly that over those 2 months, her after meal blood sugar had become noticeably stable. That blood sugar curve that used to spike like a steep mountain peak, now it looked like gentle rolling hills. The chronic constipation that had tortured her for years had quietly gone away. Now she has an easy, comfortable bowel movement every morning. The dry, scratchy, stinging sensation in her eyes had improved a lot. She could watch television and look at her phone without constant discomfort. And the best part, without starving herself, without that awful gnawing hunger, her weight had slowly dropped several pounds. Her body felt lighter. She could move better. All from one simple, ordinary ingredient. The kind you can buy for a few dollars and get a whole big bag. A sweet potato, friends. When you hear a story like this, don't you just get curious? What is the magic inside this humble sweet potato? How can one single food help with 5 different chronic problems? Well, let me break it down for you piece by piece. No hype, just real science. Sweet potatoes have been part of the human diet for a very, very long time. In fact, in many traditional farming communities, sweet potatoes were once a major staple food, as important as rice or wheat. And our ancestors, using their own kind of wisdom, figured out that this root was special. In very old traditional medical texts, some written hundreds of years ago, there are records of sweet potatoes being used to fight fatigue, boost energy, strengthen digestion, and nourish the body's deeper systems. Let me put that in plain English. Those old texts said that sweet potatoes can help replenish weakness, add physical energy, strengthen your digestive system, and nourish your body's foundational strength. But here's the important part that wasn't just ancient people guessing. Modern nutrition science, with all its fancy instruments and double-blind studies, has confirmed the same thing. Scientists have broken down the sweet potato into its individual components, and what they found is remarkable. Sweet potatoes are not just cheap filler food, they are a true nutritional powerhouse. They are packed with high quality dietary fiber, essential vitamins, important minerals, and various antioxidants, and those nutrients working together have a very real, very positive effect on many of the chronic diseases that plague middle-aged and older adults. So let me explain in detail exactly how this humble sweet potato works inside your body to fight these 5 common problems. The first benefit: sweet potatoes are surprisingly friendly to type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. They act like an anchor for stable blood sugar. I hear this all the time from my patients. Doctor, sweet potatoes taste sweet. No way. I have diabetes. I can't eat that. One bite and my blood sugar will explode. That sounds completely logical, but it's actually wrong. And it's one of the most common mistakes people make when trying to manage their blood sugar through diet. Here's the key. You cannot judge a food's effect on blood sugar just by how sweet it tastes on your tongue. We have a scientific measurement for this. It's called the glycemic index. You might hear doctors call it GI for short, and here's what the data shows. Even though sweet potatoes taste sweet, a boiled or steamed sweet potato has a much lower glycemic index than the white rice or white bread that most Americans eat every single day. In nutrition science, sweet potatoes are classified as low to medium GI white rice, high GI. That's a big difference. Why does that matter? Let me explain what's happening inside your body when you eat a bowl of white rice. That rice has been heavily processed. The outer layers, the bran and the germ, have been stripped away. All that's left is mostly simple starch and carbohydrates. That starch hits your stomach and small intestine, and your digestive enzymes go to work immediately. They break that starch down into glucose very, very quickly. Then that glucose rushes into your bloodstream all at once, like a dam breaking. Your blood sugar spikes hard and fast. Your pancreas has to scream out a huge amount of insulin to deal with that flood of sugar. Do that for years, meal after meal, and your pancreas gets exhausted. That's how type 2 diabetes gets worse over time. Now compare that to what happens when you eat a steamed sweet potato. Sweet potatoes are loaded with soluble dietary fiber and a substance called pectin. When that fiber gets into your digestive tract, it absorbs water and turns into a thick gel-like substance. Think of oatmeal or jelly. That gel physically surrounds the natural sugars inside the sweet potato. Your digestive enzymes have to work much harder and much slower to break through that gel and release the sugar. It's like putting a series of speed bumps on a racetrack. So instead of a flood, The glucose trickles into your bloodstream slowly and steadily, no big spike, no hard crash, just a gentle, controlled rise and fall. And that slow, steady release actually helps your body's cells become more sensitive to insulin over time. So here's the bottom line for people with type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, or even just a strong family history of high blood sugar. Replacing some of your refined grains with sweet potato is not dangerous. In fact, it's a genuinely smart, scientifically supported choice. The second benefit, sweet potatoes protect your heart and blood vessels and lower your risk of atherosclerosis. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart attack, stroke. These are the threats that keep my middle-aged and older patients up at night. And for very good reason, these are the big killers. One of the main drivers of these diseases is something called LDL cholesterol. That's the bad cholesterol. Too much LDL floating around in your blood is like pouring bacon grease down your kitchen sink. Over time, that grease sticks to the walls of your pipes. The same thing happens in your arteries. That sticky LDL cholesterol attaches to your artery walls and forms plaque. That plaque buildup is called atherosclerosis. It makes your arteries narrow, stiff, and less flexible. That's the number one cause of heart attacks and strokes. So where do sweet potatoes fit into this picture? Think of sweet potatoes as a gentle, effective, free of charge cleanup crew for your blood vessels. A vascular janitor, if you will. Here's the mechanism. The soluble fiber in sweet potatoes does something very clever in your gut. It binds to something called bile acids. Your liver makes these bile acids out of cholesterol. They help you digest fats. When the fiber binds to those bile acids and carries them out of your body in your stool, your liver has to pull more cholesterol out of your blood to make new bile acids. That process directly lowers your LDL cholesterol levels. Less LDL floating around means less plaque buildup. Less plaque buildup means lower risk of heart attack and stroke. But that's not all. Sweet potatoes also help with blood pressure in a separate, powerful way. A lot of my patients with high blood pressure eat way too much sodium. It's everywhere: canned soup, frozen dinners, restaurant food, deli meat, salad dressing, even bread. Sodium holds onto water in your body. More water in your blood vessels means higher blood volume. Higher blood volume means higher pressure inside your arteries. That's just basic physics. So what pushes back against sodium, potassium? And sweet potatoes are absolutely loaded with potassium. According to the USDA nutrient database, 100 grams of fresh sweet potato. That's about 3.5 ounces, contains roughly 88 milligrams of potassium. When you eat that potassium, it activates something in your cells called the sodium-potassium pump. That pump pushes sodium out of your cells and sends a signal to your kidneys to flush that sodium out in your urine. Less sodium means less water retention. Less water retention means lower blood pressure. And on top of that, the potassium actually helps the smooth muscle in your artery walls relax, which lowers pressure even further. So by eating sweet potatoes regularly, you're doing two important things for your heart at the same time. You're lowering your bad cholesterol and you're helping your body control blood pressure naturally. That's a remarkable return on investment for a food that costs a couple of dollars a bag. The third benefit: sweet potatoes relieve chronic constipation and support a healthy gut environment. Let's be real for a minute. Constipation is one of the most common complaints I hear in my office, especially from patients over 50. Nobody likes talking about it. It's embarrassing, but it's also absolutely miserable. And here's something many people don't realize. For older adults, especially those with high blood pressure or known heart disease, straining on the toilet is actually dangerous. That sudden, forceful increase in abdominal pressure can spike your blood pressure dramatically, and in rare but real cases, it can even trigger a stroke or a heart rhythm problem. So this isn't just about comfort, it's about safety. Sweet potatoes have a long folk reputation as a natural laxative. Is that just an old wives' tale? Number, it's real, and we know exactly why it works. Sweet potatoes contain two different types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. We already talked about soluble fiber, the gel-like fiber that helps with blood sugar and cholesterol, but insoluble fiber is the real hero for constipation. Insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water. Instead, it acts like a sponge. It passes through your stomach and small intestine completely unchanged. Then, when it reaches your large intestine, it absorbs water and swells up dramatically. That does two things. First, it adds bulk to your stool instead of those hard, dry, little pellet-like stools that are so difficult to pass. Your stool becomes soft, bulky, and well hydrated. Second, that increased volume physically stretches your intestinal walls. That stretching triggers natural, rhythmic muscle contractions called peristalsis. Those contractions push waste through your colon and out of your body, but there's even more to the story when you cook a sweet potato and then let it cool down. For example, if you make a sweet potato salad or just eat leftover steamed sweet potato the next day, it forms something called resistant starch. Resistant starch is exactly what it sounds like. It's a type of starch that resists digestion in your small intestine. So it travels all the way down to your large intestine where your good gut bacteria, your probiotics, get to feast on it, and they absolutely love resistant starch. It's like a gourmet buffet for them. When those good bacteria ferment resistant starch, they produce substances called short chain fatty acids. These fatty acids do wonderful things. They nourish the cells that line your colon, they help reduce inflammation, and they help crowd out the bad disease causing bacteria. Some research even suggests that a diet rich in resistant starch may lower the risk of colon cancer. That's not proven yet. More studies are needed, but the early evidence is promising. So when you eat sweet potatoes regularly, you're not just fixing constipation. You are fundamentally improving the entire ecosystem inside your gut. Multiple large-scale nutrition studies focused on middle-aged and older adults have shown that adding sweet potatoes to the daily diet significantly improves bowel movement frequency, stool consistency, and the overall comfort of using the bathroom. Your gut gets happier, your body clears out metabolic waste more effectively, and you just feel better overall. The fourth benefit, sweet potatoes protect your vision and relieve dry, tired, irritated eyes. Modern life is hard on the eyes. Smartphones, tablets, computers, television streaming services, video calls. I see patients of all ages, including many retirees who spend hours every single day staring at bright, glowing screens, and their eyes pay a price. Dryness, grittiness, burning, itching, a feeling like there's sand or dust in your eyes. Blurry vision that comes and goes sound familiar. This happens for a few reasons, but one of them is that your retina, the light sensitive tissue at the back of your eye, consumes a lot of nutrients. And when you stare at screens for extended periods, those nutrients get used up faster than your body can replace them. So what does a sweet potato have to do with your eyes? Look at the color. Sweet potatoes with orange flesh or yellow flesh get that vibrant color from a nutrient called beta carotene. Beta carotene belongs to a family of compounds called carotenoids. And in human nutrition, beta carotene has a very special job. It's what scientists call a provitamin A compound. That means your body can convert beta carotene into vitamin A, but only as much as it actually needs. Your body acts like a smart dispenser, no more, no less. This is a very safe system. Now, vitamin A is absolutely essential for your eyes. Let me tell you why. Your retina contains a purple-colored pigment called rhodopsin. Rhodopsin is what allows you to see in dim light. When light hits your retina, rhodopsin breaks apart and sends a signal to your brain. Then your body has to rebuild that rhodopsin. And you cannot build rhodopsin without vitamin A. If you become even mildly deficient in vitamin A, the first symptom is often night blindness, trouble seeing when the lights go down. You might notice this when driving at dusk or walking from a bright room into a dark one. Over time, a more severe deficiency can damage the surface of your eye. The cornea and conjunctiva, they become dry, rough, and inflamed. This condition is called xerophthalmia. In extreme cases, it can even lead to permanent blindness. Now, you could take a vitamin pill, but here's the problem. Vitamin A is fat soluble. That means your body stores it in your liver and fat tissue, and if you take too much in supplement form, especially from high-dose pills, it can build up to toxic levels. This is not a theoretical risk. Vitamin A toxicity is real, and it can cause liver damage, bone pain, and even birth defects if a pregnant woman takes too much. But when you get beta carotene from a sweet potato, your body only converts what it needs. The rest just passes through safely. There's no toxicity risk. It's nature's own slow-release, self-regulating vitamin factory. So for anyone who spends a lot of time on screens, anyone with chronically dry or tired eyes, or anyone over 50 whose vision is naturally declining with age, sweet potatoes are a fantastic, safe, and delicious way to support eye health. The fifth benefit, sweet potatoes help with weight control and reduce the obesity crisis that comes with midlife. Let's be honest with each other. After age 40 or 50, your metabolism changes. It slows down. I can't tell you how many patients have said to me, "Doctor, when I was 25, I could eat an entire pizza and not gain a pound. Now I feel like I gained weight just looking at a donut," and it's not just about vanity or fitting into your old jeans. Abdominal fat, especially the deep fat wrapped around your organs, which we call visceral fat, is actually dangerous. That visceral fat is metabolically active. It releases inflammatory chemicals that increase your risk of diabetes, high blood pressure, fatty liver disease, heart disease, and even some cancers. So weight control isn't shallow, it's medicine. A lot of people try to lose weight by extreme dieting. They cut out all carbohydrates, they skip meals, they starve themselves, and what happens? They feel terrible, tired, dizzy, irritable, hungry all the time. They can't stick with it, then eventually they break down and binge, and then they gain back even more weight than they lost. I have seen this yo-yo dieting cycle hundreds of times in my practice. It's heartbreaking. Sweet potatoes offer a completely different, much more sustainable approach. First, let's talk about the calorie difference gram for gram. A sweet potato has about 1/3 the calories of an equal amount of white rice, and the fat content is almost zero. It's negligible. So if you simply swap half your white rice for a sweet potato, you have dramatically cut your calorie intake without eating less food. Your plate is still full. Your stomach is still satisfied, but that's just the beginning. The real magic is the fiber. Remember how soluble fiber turns into that thick gel-like substance in your stomach? That gel takes up physical space. It stretches your stomach walls, which sends a very strong, very clear signal to your brain, I am full, stop eating. Put the fork down, and that signal doesn't fade quickly. Fiber significantly slows down how fast your stomach empties. So you stay full for hours after your meal. Here's what happens to many of my patients who eat mostly refined grains like white rice, white bread, and regular pasta. They eat lunch. The refined carbs digest very quickly, their blood sugar spikes, and then crashes a couple of hours later. That crash feels exactly like hunger, even though their body doesn't actually need more calories. It's a false hunger signal. So what do? They reach for a snack, chips, cookies, a sugary latte, a candy bar from the vending machine. Those extra calories add up day after day, week after week, and that's how the belly grows. But if you replace that white rice or white bread with sweet potato, you stay full much longer. You don't get that false hunger signal. You naturally eat fewer calories throughout the day without feeling deprived, without white knuckling it through cravings. And the research backs this up. Nutrition studies have shown that when people replace some of their refined grain intake with sweet potatoes without making any other intentional changes to their diet, their total daily calorie intake drops by an average of 15 to 20%. That's a huge reduction, and it happens automatically. You don't have to count calories, weigh your food, or keep a strict log. Your body just self-regulates better. So for middle-aged adults who want to lose belly fat gently, sustainably, and without suffering, sweet potatoes are one of the most powerful tools in your pantry. Now, after hearing all these wonderful benefits, some of you might be tempted to run out and buy 50 pounds of sweet potatoes and eat them at every single meal. Please don't do that. As we say in medicine, the dose makes the poison. Even good things can cause problems if you don't use them correctly. Sweet potatoes are no exception. If you eat them the wrong way, you can get side effects, heartburn, acid reflux, bloating, blood sugar problems, even weight gain. So let me give you 4 practical, science-based rules for eating sweet potatoes safely and effectively. This is the part I really want you to remember and write down. Rule number 1, substitute, don't add. This is the most important rule. This is the single most common mistake I see in my office. Someone hears that sweet potatoes are healthy, so they eat their normal bowl of white rice or their normal plate of pasta, and then they add a sweet potato on the side as a healthy extra. That does not work. It's the opposite of what you want. Sweet potatoes are still carbohydrates. They still have calories. They still raise your blood sugar, just more slowly than white rice. If you add them on top of your usual portion of rice or pasta, your total carbohydrate intake and your total calorie intake will go up. That will raise your blood sugar and make you gain weight. You will get the opposite of the benefits I just described. The correct method is substitution. Here's what that looks like in real life. You make your dinner plate. You have your protein, grilled chicken, baked fish, tofu, beans, whatever you like. You have a generous serving of vegetables, broccoli, green beans, salad, anything colorful, and then you have your starch. Normally, that starch might be a big scoop of white rice or a couple of slices of white bread. Instead, you make that starch a sweet potato about the size of your fist, and you cut that white rice portion down by at least half, or even better, you skip the rice entirely and just have the sweet potato as your starch. That is the swap mentality. Replace something less healthy with something more healthy. Do not just add more food to your plate. This is the absolute core principle of using sweet potatoes for blood sugar control and weight management. Rule number 2, steam or boil your sweet potatoes. Avoid roasting, frying, or candying them. Sweet potatoes are very versatile. You can prepare them in many ways. Some people love to buy roasted sweet potatoes from a street vendor or a grocery store hot bar. They smell amazing, I admit. Some people look forward to candied yams at Thanksgiving dinner. Those are usually swimming in butter, brown sugar, and sometimes even melted marshmallows. Some people deep fry sweet potato fries and dip them in sauce. Some people make sweet potato casserole with a pecan and brown sugar topping. Look, if you eat those versions occasionally just because you enjoy them, that's fine, no judgment. Food is also about pleasure and culture, but if you are eating sweet potatoes specifically for health to manage diabetes, high blood pressure, constipation, or weight, please steam them or boil them. Why? Because steaming and boiling use gentle, moist heat. That cooking method preserves the fiber, the vitamins, and the minerals. It keeps the glycemic index low. Roasting uses high, dry heat. That high heat does two bad things. First, it drives out water, which concentrates the natural sugars. Second, it causes chemical reactions called the Maillard reaction and caramelization. Those reactions make the sweet potato taste sweeter and more intense, but they also significantly raise the glycemic index for someone with diabetes. A roasted sweet potato is much more dangerous than a steamed one, and candied or fried sweet potatoes, those are no longer health foods at all. Coating a sweet potato in butter, sugar, and oil turns it into a calorie bomb and a fat bomb. You lose all the heart benefits and blood sugar benefits, you might as well eat a slice of cake. So remember, simple is better, steam or boil. Keep it plain. Rule number 3, control your portion size carefully. Do not overdo it. Sweet potatoes are healthy, but they are not a complete food. They don't have much protein. They don't have essential fats. If you eat nothing but sweet potatoes, you will become malnourished. So keep them in their proper place as a starch replacement, not the entire diet. Let me give you some practical numbers for a generally healthy adult with no major metabolic problems. Aim for about 100 to 150 grams of sweet potato per adult in Y. What does that look like in real life? That's roughly one small to medium-sized sweet potato, about the size of your fist. You can eat that all at one meal, or you can split it across lunch and dinner. Either way is fine. For people who already have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes and are trying to keep their blood sugar very tight, I recommend a more conservative range. Aim for 50 to 100 grams per Dalton Y, and do not eat it all at once. Split that 100 grams into 2 smaller servings, for example. 50 grams with breakfast and 50 grams with dinner. Smaller, more frequent portions give you a flatter, smoother blood sugar curve and put less stress on your pancreas. Rule number 4, never eat sweet potatoes on an empty stomach. This is a very common blind spot. I see this all the time, especially in older adults. Someone wakes up in the morning feeling hungry. They see a leftover sweet potato in the refrigerator from last night's dinner. They eat it cold, straight from the fridge, on an empty stomach. Then 30 or 40 minutes later, they feel terrible heartburn, acid reflux, a burning sensation in their chest or upper belly, sometimes even stomach pain or nausea. Why does this happen? Sweet potatoes contain a natural compound called oxidase. That oxidase enzyme, when it hits your empty stomach, stimulates the cells in your stomach lining to produce a large amount of gastric acid. Now, if your stomach has other food in it, vegetables, protein, soup, anything, that food helps buffer and absorb some of that acid. But if your stomach is completely empty, that high concentration of acid has nothing to work on except your own stomach lining and your esophagus. That acid irritation causes the burning sensation. So if you already struggle with acid reflux, GERD, hiatal hernia, or just a generally sensitive stomach, please be careful. Do not eat sweet potatoes when you are completely hungry and your stomach is empty. Here's a better strategy. Before you eat your sweet potato, have a little something else first. A few bites of vegetables, a small bowl of warm broth or soup, a piece of lean meat, some tofu, or hard-boiled egg, or simply eat your sweet potato together with other foods in the same meal, not alone, not by itself. This one small change, never eating sweet potato on an empty stomach, can make the difference between feeling good and feeling miserable. All right, let me bring this all the way back to Mrs. Chen, the patient I told you about at the very beginning. Today, after following the dietitian's advice and after learning to apply these 4 rules, Mrs. Chen is a completely different person. Sweet potatoes have become a regular welcome guest on her family's dinner table. She's not afraid of her blood sugar monitor anymore. She's not dreading the bathroom every few days. Her eyes don't burn and itch all the time. Her weight is slowly, steadily coming down. Her blood pressure is more stable and her mood night and day. She has energy. She has hope. She is actually enjoying her retirement the way she was supposed to. She got her life back, all from a root that costs a few dollars a bag. Now, I want to be very clear with you. I am not here to tell you that sweet potatoes cure disease. That would be dishonest and dangerous. If you have a serious medical condition, you need to see your own doctor. You need to take your prescribed medications. Do not stop your blood pressure pills or your diabetes meds just because you started eating sweet potatoes that could harm you. These foods are tools to support your health, not replacements for professional medical treatment. But here's what I am saying. Sweet potatoes are a real, affordable, accessible, and scientifically validated tool. They can help you manage chronic conditions better. They can help prevent some problems from starting in the first place. And they do all of this gently with almost no side effects as long as you eat them correctly. It's remarkable, isn't it, from very old traditional medical texts written hundreds of years ago all the way to modern peer-reviewed nutrition studies using the latest laboratory equipment across centuries and across cultures. The same message keeps appearing. This simple, humble root vegetable is genuinely good for human health. And here's a deeper truth that I really want you to take away from this video, real. Lasting health is not found in expensive, fancy bottles at the supplement store. It's not in detox teas or magical powders or celebrity-endorsed diet plans. It's in your local grocery store. It's in the produce aisle. It's in the foods that have been feeding human beings for generations. The ones that cost a few dollars and don't need a flashy marketing campaign. If you learn to use these real foods correctly with a little bit of science, a little bit of common sense, and a whole lot of consistency, they will quietly, powerfully, and steadily build up your health day by day. They'll help you live better, feel better, and maybe even enjoy your meals again without fear. If this video gave you a new way to think about sweet potatoes, if it cleared up some confusion, answered some questions, or gave you a little bit of hope, please hit that like button. It really does help this channel reach more people who need this information. And more importantly, please share this video. Send it to your family group chat. Send it to your friends who are struggling with blood sugar, blood pressure, constipation, or stubborn belly weight. Send it to your parents or your grandparents. That one share might give them a simple, cheap, effective tool that their doctor never had time to tell them about. That's a real gift. That's how we take care of each other. I also really want to hear from you in the comments section. Do you already eat sweet potatoes? How do you usually prepare them? Steamed, boiled, roasted, mashed? Something else after watching this video, what's one small change you're going to try at your very next meal? Or do you have your own story about using a simple, ordinary food to manage a chronic health problem? Please share it. We learn so much from each other's real life experiences. I read every single comment seriously. So let's keep the conversation going down below. We're all in this together. Let's take control of our health, one small smart choice at a time. And one last time, please remember this video is for educational purposes only. I am not your personal doctor. I don't know your specific medical history, your medications, or your unique situation. Always talk to your own primary care doctor before making significant changes to your diet, your exercise routine, or your medications. If you're dealing with any health concerns, please schedule a visit with your primary care doctor. I'm here to help you understand the science, but I can never replace the professional medical advice that's tailored to you as an individual. Take care of yourselves, be good to your body. It's the only one you get. I'll see you in the next video with more practical health tips. Talk to you then.